There is Black history on every corner of St. Louis. One North City home became a battleground for the nationwide civil rights fight.
It was all over restrictions on where people could live based on their race. And Sydney Stallworth is joining us now in studio with how this story actually made history.
It's an incredible story, guys. What's now the Greaterville neighborhood. Back in the 40s, there was a brick duplex that stands on Labadie Avenue. It still stands there today. The Shelleys bought this home, just not realizing in doing so, they set the stage for one of the most important Supreme Court cases of the 20th century. This could have been anybody's family.
Could have literally been anybody's family.
A civil rights battle built on the bricks of this house. 4600 Labadie Avenue became home to the Shelley family in 1945.
J.D. and Ethel Shelley moved to St. Louis from Mississippi, and they brought their 6 children with them.
The neighbors argued the Shelleys needed to leave based on the neighborhood's racially restrictive covenant, blocking certain people from moving in.
Anyone who was deemed non-white.
The Shelleys didn't know the covenant existed. Shortly after they moved in, the push began to move them out. Their white neighbors, Lewis and Fern Kramer, filed a lawsuit against them in St. Louis Circuit Court.
The Circuit Court actually ruled in favor of the Shelley family.
But the Kramers appealed to the Missouri Supreme Court.
They ruled in reverse of what that Circuit Court's ruling was, in favor of the Kramer family.
In 1948, the case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, capturing the country's attention.
With George Vaughn and with Thurgood Marshall, the NAACP, who are heavy hitters at that time, who are advocating on behalf of Black people across the country.
Then, a groundbreaking ruling.
The racially restrictive covenant should not be enforced, and that it was unconstitutional, and it was unconstitutional on the basis of the 14th Amendment.
Because of this ruling, other people of color were able to argue against the enforcement of racially restrictive covenants in the years to follow, citing the Equal Protection Clause. Many others in St. Louis were battling the same problem.
There were 373 racially restrictive covenants that were in place at that particular time.
The effects of covenants still linger.
You have communities that have been disinvested. You have, communities where there was white flight.
But change makers from America's dark past, like the Shelley family, helped the country march forward to a brighter future, one step at a time.
The grounds in which that we walk on today are the grounds in which battles were waged through the civil rights movement, and have such significant impact that in some ways we don't even recognize, living in St. Louis, how important that these stories are to the legacy of this particular place that we call home.
Now, despite the Shelley versus Kramer ruling, decades of redlining, unequal lending, and disinvestment continue to impact Black people in St. Louis and in cities across our country. But it was a crucial first step toward progress and the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Sydney Stallworth, 5 on your side.